How do you plan on harnessing the student vote?
Over the last 3 years, we have put more than $90 million into student assistance, collapsing student debt, creating more affordable education. And I don't think a lot of students really know that. So students saw a 3% increase in their tuition. What they didn't see was the fact that if we hadn't done what we had done in order to backfill that $30 million, tuition would have went up by a factor of 6 or 7, more than that. The simple fact of the matter is that they focus on, you focus on what you didn't get as opposed to what you did get.
So you've started the tax rebate plan. How did you think that that would work for Nova Scotia?
The second rebate that we did was the graduate retention rebate, which said to graduates, if you stay in Nova Scotia, we will rebate each year against your whatever taxes you pay, a certain percentage of that, which you will be able to apply against any student debt that you have. And that is a way for us to accomplish two of our aims: to reduce student debt, to try and keep young people in the province.
Why wouldn't you instead move that money towards grants or lowering tuition so that they don't accumulate that debt over time?
A number of reasons. I mean, first of all, we have increased the front end grants. I think it now is up to 25 or 30% of the available assistance. So we wanted to do both of these things. One of the ways to keep people in the province is actually to give them an incentive to stay. What really helps people to get into university programming and community college programs is access to funding as opposed to lower tuitions. Lower tuitions, in fact, people on the lower end of the economic scale don't get the benefit that they could otherwise get, because you're spreading it across all income classes, you're spreading it across all programs.
I did some research into Newfoundland's situation because they were very similar to us. In Nova Scotia, they have an aging population. All the youth are leaving to Ontario for bigger jobs. They reduced tuition. They cut the interest on student debt. Why don't you think that, since it worked for Newfoundland, it wouldn't work for Nova Scotia?
I'm not sure what you mean it worked for Newfoundland, because it really is. There's not very much difference between Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. Example, about 1,100 Nova Scotia students go to Newfoundland every year for an education, but about 900 Newfoundland students come to Nova Scotia every year for enrollment in programs. So the difference between the two has been much less than people think it has been.
Well, since they froze their tuition fees, their enrollment's gone up by 800% of maritime students.
When did they? I don't know how over what time
I believe it was
period.
in 1999.
I don't know whether that's correct or not, but let's assume it is. In Nova Scotia, we have gone from 38,000 students in the 1980s to somewhere in the vicinity of 46,000 now. So despite the fact that we have always had a very high participation rate, I mean, we had a much higher participation rate to begin with in post-secondary education in Nova Scotia, we have continued to grow in Nova Scotia, in fact, disproportionately with the rest of the country. And we are attracting out-of-province students and out-of-country students at a very, very great rate. We not only hold our own, we are a very attractive place for students to come. Of course, students here only know what's happening here mostly. What they should know is that tuitions here are continuing to decline relative to the rest of the country, because we are seeing actually large increases in tuition take place in other jurisdictions.
I know that a lot of students do come to Nova Scotia because we do have lots of strong universities, but they do continue to leave. So how, if you're re-elected, will you address that problem?
In order to ensure that they are able to get employment, so you have new graduate incentives for employers to hire new graduates. I want young people to be able to begin not only their working lives, but the rest of their lives too. Their ability to be able to start a family, start to see the benefits of the sacrifices that they've already made.
So the debt cap's at $28,000, am I right?
$28,560, I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's still one of the biggest student debts in the country. So how do you plan on lowering that?
Well, it's actually the average. And in fact, what we did is we looked at what was happening across the country, and we pegged the debt cap to the average.
Will the university and tuition fees continue to rise?
What I think you'll see is they'll continue to reflect the consumer price index, because all costs continue to rise. So wages of the professors continue to rise, the cost of materials continue to rise. Everybody should expect that those increases in costs mean there will be increases in tuition. As our ability as a government increases, as we get more money, that we will commit ourselves to solidifying tuition, bringing it down, making it more competitive. I think our first priority, though, will be to try and affect the level of debt that students have.